With Ome's community manager, communications manager, Reese. How we doing, brother?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. How are you?
Man, I am so excited to have you on. This is a talk about Ome, not about Vivi. Ome.
I'm sure there'll be some crossover, but we'll try to focus on Ome.
You can't go wrong talking about something that has brought joy to so many people's lives. And so I think my first question, and let's have a conversation. My first conversation with you is, how has this brought joy into your life? Because I know that being a collector and a fan of this kind of stuff has brought a lot of excitement and joy in my life. But the Ome token has really brought excitement because I discovered it before I discovered Vivi.
Yeah. It really, people either came in from one door or the other. You know, they found Vivi, then Ome, or Ome, then Vivi. But how much joy has this brought to my life? Is that the word I would use? I swear 12 months ago, my hairline was down here, and that's how much stress it's caused me. No, look, it's been an insane journey, to be honest. After sort of 3 years of, it wasn't stagnant, you know, we were obviously working in the background and had all these things going, but to then hit the ground running when Vivi did launch and see the audience kind of pour in and really enjoy the things that we hoped people would enjoy, you know, and some of the nicest messages I have received and still receive today are that the app and the ecosystem has brought families closer together. You know, there's a lot of people that maybe didn't have the best relationship with their kids before, but now they all VV together or things like that. So, you know, receiving those kind of messages are really incredible. Seeing the excitement on your face, I mean, you're like our number one hype man. So it's, you know, those things always help to bring joy to the whole situation. And look, it's a startup, right? We've literally witnessed the rise of our business as a startup, and that comes with so many challenges that you don't expect. But it's satisfying, to say the least.
Well, listen, for the folks that are watching this live on Twitter, you're watching us live on Twitter, you can hashtag Ask Reese, ASKRHYS, hashtag Ask Reese. Send me your questions because I'm going to vet most of them, because guess what? Some of them are just mean. Other ones ask people about their hair. Reese has a lot more than me. Stop asking me about my hair. I just want to put that out there. So let's get started just give us the background on the Ome token and the concept behind it and how it's supposed to be utilized.
Yeah. So, I mean, the token, we originally planned into the ecosystem, I mean, from the start, once we started building the digital collectibles platform. And, you know, we had our first token raise in 2018, right? So we're now 3 years on, something like that, almost 4 years on. Now, I think we launched that raise, it was mid-2018, so the bull market was over. I think this kind of denial phase had come to pass, and really we launched into a market that didn't want anything to do with you know, what we were doing, right? And at the time, trying to educate people, but really to sell them on the prospects of a token tied to an NFT, which again, people had no idea what that was. It was a hard sell, right? So that raise effectively failed. We paused the business, restructured everything. At the time, we had 4 products planned, stripped that back to 2, went back to private raising. And then in 2019, I think it was May 2019 or sometime around then, we had launched an IEO. So had a small allocation for sale on Bit4X, which sold out within a few hours. At that point, so I think when we launched our first raise, Al Khan wasn't on board. By the second one, that side of the business had developed much more, and people were starting to understand NFTs and could really see that vision. But the whole idea behind the token is and has always been a utility token, right? And that utility has designed to be used within the app. Initially, it was to redeem for collectibles, but as regulations really started to hammer us down, we kind of had to change that model. So now we've built in, and I'm sure we'll get into this, a whole range of other utilities for the token, so we can use them later.
Oh, you know it. Listen, those questions are coming in hot and fast already. When I put that tweet out earlier today, about 3 hours ago, Hello K, actually his tweet got the most. So I'm going to ask Hello K's tweet later, because it's about something that's more in depth. And I think there are people out here watching right now who just need to understand, what is the Ome utility program? And because, you guys released that paper November, December time. Also a period of time that was very dark for me. I got 0 Disney drops. And so Traps Wellington has been a very strong ally in that course of my life, because I don't hit anything. I bought $1,200 worth of phone and equipment, and I did not hit anything. Poor Reese and poor Ross and David Goxstein have been listening to me complain about not hitting drops. I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Tell us about that Ome utility program.
Okay, so this is available on the Ome blog, medium.com/Ome. And I want to preface this by saying it's version 0.1. There will absolutely be more revisions. And really, it's a fluid system, right? As new uses come up, as the ecosystem develops, we build in more utilities to the token. And really, I think that has to be the core focus, to integrate the token properly. So in version 1, version 0.1, a few of the core utilities, right? Initially, we have a staking program. Now, that staking program, other than being designed to take more tokens out of supply, is designed to incentivize you to use features of the platform or give you access to features of the platform. So that might be things like, to be honest, I'll have to go back and have a look at the staking tiers that we had in there, because we have done a lot of work on them since. But primarily access to either exclusive drops, or, depending on your staking tier, exclusive rarities of a certain drop, or an allocation of a drop that you have access to, because the whole idea behind it is that we're trying to give benefits to token holders, and obviously they are benefiting the whole ecosystem by staking those tokens. So that is first and foremost one of the utilities coming. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call that utility, right? And you're not actually using the token for these things, but you are holding them for benefits. Some of the more interesting utilities come with the Ome Drop Raffle. And we have a similar thing with the Master Collector side. But the Ome Drop Raffle literally lets you buy tickets or extra chances to secure a drop, right? So if you're like yourself, Akil, or myself, who never gets a drop, and you're looking for some sort of advantage there, that can really tip the scales in your favor, right? And in its current iteration, it's, you can buy an endless amount of tickets, and if you get those tickets, if you secure the drop, the Ome that we use for those tickets get burnt. So it's removing them from circulation while giving you benefits, or at least a better chance of obtaining that drop. So yeah, that's one of the core utilities there. What else do we have in our?
Oh, well, one of the things that, let's talk about a utility that that's on the horizon. The Ome to NFT utility that has been talked about so adamantly since I started buying the daggone thing, some time ago. I won't say how long, but I'm a long time bag holder, like, to the painful moments of this world, to the glorious moments of this world, back to painful.
Yeah. So, okay, Ome to NFT. Now, the core utility of the token has always been to interact with these NFTs, right? Whether it's buying or selling and all of those things. Now, the initial system, you could swap Ome to gems and you could cash those out, right? And you could cash out in Ome tokens, right? But once the regulations started coming down, if we allowed you to purchase gems, swap them to Ome, cash out, we're essentially acting as an exchange, right? Or a fiat on and off ramp, which we cannot do, right? Without a whole.
That's a securities issue right there, right?
Massively, right? And you need a whole ream of financial services licenses in every jurisdiction that your app operates in. To be, we see it with exchanges. Some can operate in this jurisdiction and not that jurisdiction, right? So it's not a very it wasn't a very effective business model. Now, what we will enable is Ome to NFT. So basically you can transact in the marketplace. So you're transacting peer-to-peer with other users using your tokens. That eliminates any of that sort of legislative risk, regulatory risk to the company, while still allowing you to use those tokens and fundamentally just giving you better access to these collectibles, right? I think Brockmick Blockchain mentioned this in a stream a few days ago, but and this is no guarantee that it will happen, but at that point, I mean, I don't think you'll see people sweeping floors. You'll see people sweeping whole collectibles. You know,
yes,
there are just some Ome whales out there, right? And I don't like to speak directly to this, but obviously the thought process behind this is that, you know, as you buy your tokens, if they're cheaper, the deflationary mechanisms of the system possibly raise that price, and you have more to spend on collectibles or more, you know, raffle tickets or things in the app. So that's kind of the value driver there.
Don't worry, Reese, this is a safe space. This is a safe space. We're friends. Just
people can see my face though, so
don't worry about them.
Yeah.
So now that we're in this safe space, there, you know, that's actually really cool. And you know what I'm going to say, because it's really cool, because there was somebody who I was interacting with, a megalo whale in anything this individual does. And he told me that he would love to buy an entire collection just so he can burn the collection now. So there's only one left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my crazy butt went and bought one of those things that he was talking about, just because.
Feel free to mention it to me.
Not on here.
Yeah. This is a safe space, Akil.
Only because he'll kill me. But they basically said that, you know, I just want one left, because then Bored Apes will have nothing on me. That was his quote. He says, Bored Apes will have nothing on me. And he was actually planning on selling it. He says, I'll sell them to, you know, NBA players and stuff like that. I was like, man, and in fact that he's got connections like that is so awesome. Yep. Because, you know, we're all nerds. You know, I'm a former athlete, man, but I totally am like, yo, you got Spider-Man?
And I mean, look, fundamentally what that's doing is putting power into the hands of the token holders too, right? If they can come in with their tokens, say sweep a collectible and do that, well, then they're obviously financially incentivized to promote that collectible, but it's benefiting all token holders as well. You know? So it's yeah, when all those pillars are in place, we're going to look at a very interesting economic system, I think.
So question, will burning the NFTs also burn Ome?
No, because if you're in possession of that NFT, you've either paid gems for it, at which point those tokens were burnt, or you've paid Ome tokens, right? And they're now in the possession of the seller. So no, in that instance, they wouldn't burn the tokens, but obviously, as you mentioned, you know, burning those collectibles and reducing that supply just throws a whole other dynamic into this ecosystem.
Oh man. Well, it looks like we've got some more questions coming through. So I'm going to start asking some community questions, throw in my own little spin, obviously, because I'm an entertaining human that has just so much energy and loves this opportunity. So I'm going to take one from VV Viral. It says, will Ome NFT be available in the next year? And that doesn't actually what it says. I'm just making that year part up.
Yeah, I would hope so. I would absolutely.
So the plan is that it will be available within this next 4 quarters. Yes. Next 4, folks.
I would hope to see all 4 phases of those Ome features now rolled out.
Okay.
Now, you know, on that, I just want to point out to people that obviously Immutable is still very new tech as well. Even on the process of migrating, I think both development teams learned a lot about their system and how we interact with it. So look, development is development. It takes what it takes, but that's absolutely the intention. And we're at a point now where a lot of the big implementations we had to make to the app specifically have kind of happened. You know, so now it's a lot more optimizations and revisions.
So answer me this question. What's the promo code inside the app you're supposed to be used for? I mean, that's been nowhere. I haven't seen anything written on that. Is there an article coming out, or is there something, you know?
No planned article at this point. I think Alex may have responded to some people on Twitter. So that is so that people can redeem collectibles at some point, right? So complete speculation, right?
Okay.
At the moment, we'll say that it's specifically for digital collectibles, right? And that allows us to release collectibles in the app and then have marketing promotions, things like that, where people can redeem with the code. But eventually, I would posit that probably links to physical and digital pairings of items as well. If you purchase the physical, you've now got a redemption code for the digital, that kind of thing. So that's what that's for. Yeah.
So there's another question coming in. So they want to know, we'll answer that question later. Get to this question now, because you talked about Immutable X, right? So Immutable is where the Ome token will be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Intersectionality, cross-chain.
Like interoperability.
Interoperability. I don't know why I said interact.
So no, so interoperability really refers more to the NFTs. The token itself is now on Ethereum, right? So it can be stored on any Ethereum wallet. It can be listed on exchanges that support Ethereum. So I guess for all intents and purposes, the token is now interoperable, right? Much more interoperable. But what you can now do is use Ome on the IMX marketplace, right? Because there's a balance of Ome at layer 2, or there will be as we onboard more users to that system. We're also looking at other marketplaces where the Ome token might be used, or games, or things like that.
Video games.
Yeah, video games.
With some developers, or that might have something to do with some other really cool IPs, but we won't talk about that. Because you know what? These girls out here, because I'm gonna say girls, the girls out there will go crazy. You know, they'll be fanboying here in like 30 seconds. So, is there any plans to reduce, not reduce, sorry. Is there any plans for buybacks? So now this is where that question comes from, and I know where it originated. In the original white paper from 2018, there was language in there for buybacks, but now that people are like, oh, it disappeared. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah. So first and foremost, it didn't disappear, at least to my knowledge, right? I don't think we ever had anything about buybacks in the white paper because we hadn't established the system then. I may be wrong, but someone did ask me that in an AMA last week, and Dan said as much to me. So, before people panic about that, we haven't changed things there. Now, the buybacks, initially, right, that was a link between the systems, right? The sale of NFTs and the reserve wallet, or the vault wallet. Now, up until now, they happened briefly mid last year and then again, the regulatory clarity around that really started to become murky, right? And as that spotlight turned to crypto, for us in particular, because we've always labeled, identified, and sold the Ome token as a utility token, as soon as you get into a buyback system, right, which is normal in equities markets, but not so normal in crypto, that spotlight becomes a lot hotter, right? And we really need to tread carefully, especially with the IPs that we have on board, to make sure that we don't end up in some sort of SEC lawsuit down the line. So, look, the delays on that have been frustrating, to say the least. But I understand the company's hesitation until we have some real clarity. Me personally, when we first designed the system, the buybacks sounded great, right? And they're still a great way to link the system, don't get me wrong. But I mean, if you really drill into them, they artificially inflate your token price without creating real demand, right? So while that feels great for the short-term price bump, we all just end up back on these waves of volatility until there's a real economic system behind the token. And that's where the Ome utility program comes in, future iterations of that. We actually want to create an economy that incentivizes use of the token and educates the non-crypto audience, right, which is the bulk of our audience and the bulk of the users in VV, as to the token, the advantages you can get from using that token, and all of those things. So personally, I think that will have a much bigger impact than buybacks would anyway. And from a tokenomic perspective, I mean, it doesn't necessarily lead to better health of the system, right? Like in its current iteration at that 7% or 10% buyback fund, it still doesn't give the reserve the longevity that it needs, right? It's not enough to fully resupply the reserve over time. I guess the initial mechanism was that the price would balance that demand. But personally, I think there's other ways to do it that are better. I think that there's more demand we can build into the token that would benefit us all in the long run anyway.
So obviously a follow-up to that is, but the burn is backing up in the system, and the non-circulating burn supply is just kind of sitting there.
The burns happen every day.
So they're happening every day. Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the
burns absolutely happen. So anytime someone buys an NFT from the store, Ome is being burnt out of that reserve wallet, right? Permanently. You can actually go and track it at token.vv.me, I think is the site. Let me confirm. Yep. And that will show you the tokens we burnt and left behind on GoChain, which at the moment or forever will be 26,381 million. And we've burnt, it looks like another 6.5 billion since moving to Ethereum. So there's a total of 33 billion tokens that have been permanently removed from circulation. About 1 billion of those came from open circulation when the Ome to Gem swap was available as well. Then you have a further 97 billion tokens that are permanently locked in smart contracts on GoChain. Right? They will never be seen again. So the total token supply is already less than 650 billion. And then obviously the activity on VV is really starting to churn through that reserve.
So Reese, can I ask you a question? And this is about timing. So what time last year, or when did the actual Ome to Gem stop? When did you guys stop that program?
It was about when the huge user base increased, right? Because the system we had built to even facilitate that broke, essentially. So I think it was live until maybe this time last year. Yeah, it was probably about 12 months ago, maybe into April, something like that.
So that would be right. So right around the time of the largest pump, I guess the word would be like around the height of the actual token.
Yeah, it was probably sometime.
So there were probably a lot. Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that would make sense that logically there were a lot of new people in the app that were able to take some Ome and move it into it. So there was no loss of money. Okay, I'm thinking out loud, but now that I say it, I know that I'm right. So, so here's a question. With the current climate of increased regulations, do you believe the Ome token and its utility program will weather the storm that these governments are talking about?
Yes. Yeah. So this really harkens to the business acumen of David, Dan, Al, people like that. So we've always had legal guidance on what we are doing, right? And we have an in-house legal team now that really helps us to direct these things and make sure that we do stay compliant, right? I mean, the US executive order happened today, seemed like it was pretty fluffy. But obviously, I mean, this could really be that kind of turning point for the industry where, okay, now even one of the biggest economies in the world has decided they're going to look into this. So regulation, I think, brings clarity. Clarity brings prosperity, right? If people know how to operate and what they can operate within, then we all succeed. But we have always erred on the side of caution there because we knew these moments would come, right? We knew that regulation would come, and we don't want to be retroactively punished for something that wasn't clear in the first place.
Now maybe we just talk for a second about why there is a distinct separation between the Ome token and the Ecome, which is the parent company, and VV directly, because I know a lot of people they keep asking me ask about this collectible, ask about that thing. But I said, but this is why I'm a fan of the Ome token, is because it is almost a separate company that just has something tied to its first company, right?
Yeah, and really that's how it developed, right? I mean, initially there was another parent company called Orbis, but we went to launch with that name and somebody else took it, I think 3 weeks before we were ready to roll out a product.
So Orbis is not part of this at all?
Orbis is the top tier. So
Okay.
it kind of goes Orbis. So you'll see that sometimes in press releases that Orbis is used as opposed to VV or Ecome. So Orbis sits at the top, then Ecome, and then VV was a product of Ecome, but it's really swung into being its own company and entity since then. Just the sheer scale of it, financially, it makes more sense. So they all kind of sit in different jurisdictions, and they are inextricably linked, regardless of whether the definition of company or product. But by separating them, it lets us use the Ome token for other things. Like I mentioned, making it available in other games or other marketplaces, right? I used to always be questioned on why didn't you call it VV token instead of Ome token? Right? It started as Ome, Ecomi. That's what we began with. VV wasn't even named until then, right? It didn't have its namesake until a year or two in. But it then gives us this whole other element of the business that we can utilize because like crypto is the most exciting thing I have ever been a part of. You know? I think it's the same for most people, right?
Don't you have kids? I mean, come on, man.
God, if I had kids, I'd have no life. You know, so yeah, it just gives us more opportunity in the future to utilize the token and to have that in separate jurisdictions too.
Awesome. So another question from the community. This comes from Austin. They asked, how many people are currently have access to the MTL?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I think there's about 50 or 60 testers in there at the moment.
Okay. So there's 50 or 60 testers currently right now?
Yep.
Awesome. Doesn't mean there were only 8 of those top dogs. Maybe that's something else that I could weasel out of Alex later. Because I would love to have Alex on to go over the VV side one day. Absolutely. But we'll get to it one day. I guess you had a Spaces not too long ago, and people were asking, is there any way to clarify or maybe get some clarification around the metadata that was discussed last night with IMX?
I'm assuming they mean the metadata appearing on Uniscan. Yeah. So at the moment, I think once the NFTs become interoperable, that metadata will at least be available. But really, it's a matter of development time. So for us to provide that metadata, we need to link their Explorer to our backend systems. And to do that properly and effectively, we would essentially need to move that data to its own server or its own database, just so that it's not interfering with the way that the app works, before long, the way that the web platform works, that kind of thing. So it's a resources thing at the moment. Yeah. Once that link is established, you'll be able to see all those things on Immutascan as well.
Wonderful. So I do have a question. Where is the purple robe?
Pink robe. It's a pink robe.
Well, what color is the dress now?
Yeah, it's that comes out on maybe once every 6 months, I think.
All right, I will make a note to have you on in 6 months from today, wearing the pink robe. And then a follow-up question to that one is, with the current, congratulations on getting Bitmart as an exchange as of today, correct?
Yeah,
as of today.
Deposits today. Trading opens on the 11th. Yeah.
Awesome. So Bitmart today, how many other, and I'm asking it very gently.
I like this.
How many other are in the pipeline to be released within the next 12 months?
What can I say about this? Look, I think we have at least 4 or 5.
Okay.
You know, and as to when they land, that's up to the exchange. But our goal was to have at least 5 decent exchanges by the end of last year. Now, obviously, the migration to Immutable really hemmed that in, but it's all back on the table now. And people may not be aware of this, but we do actually have a dedicated exchange strategist on board that he has experience building exchanges, very connected in the industry. So he has been on board for quite a while. And now that this migration's over, we can start to push those through. But just to maybe contextualize that a little bit, you know, these listings, it's truly the most frustrating thing when you see a big exchange, this shitcoin, like whatever, right?
We won't say their names.
We won't say their name, but everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
You know, because they just want that volume, right? And they ride the pump, and then these things disappear. But for a legitimate listing and a legitimate company, and for exchanges to maintain their legitimacy, right? The days are gone where you can really just list anything and hope for the best, right? You need to do that due diligence. So aside from the fundamentals like token contract audits, which take time and all these things, exchanges do months of due diligence on the community, right? Not just on the project. They ask for literally more things than license audits most of the time. And then they watch, they sit there and watch, they watch the community, they watch the reaction, they watch the comments and all of these things before they decide they want to move ahead. Now, we are very blessed, thanks to VV, that we come with one of the biggest, if not the biggest, established communities in crypto. We have more than 2 million users on the platform. Once the Ome token is available within VV, we're now directly marketing that to that entire user base, hopefully converting most of them to Ome token holders. Now, that prospect to exchanges is a very attractive thing, right? Because their whole ethos is to try and grow their user base and support the crypto ecosystem. So yeah, we're in a good position there, but these things definitely take time. Bitmart, amazing that we have another listing ready to go, but those that were in the community and astute might realize that that was meant to happen in May last year, and it's now March. It's like we're almost a year on, and for that to happen. Now, the immutable thing had to happen beforehand. There was a bit of a mix up there that will fall into the tales of history. But just to give some perspective, I've literally been waiting 10 months for that listing to go live. So we won't be waiting that long for the next ones. I can guarantee that. And we're absolutely working on getting them live as soon as we can.
All right. Another question coming in. Why so much fun? I mean, you guys, and it's literally why so much fun. You guys have been trolling people for months. Why so much fun? Because for me, I think one of the joys about this is as I can't take myself too seriously, considering I'm buying Spider-Man. Like I can't and so why so much joy on even the Ome side where you're not buying Spider-Man? I'm just like, I'm not buying Spider-Man, but I'm just gonna buy some more Ome today because I missed that $6 drop. And I literally, that's what I do. I take $6.99 and I go buy some more Ome.
Yep. Makes sense. The fun, I mean, we're a collectibles company, right? Or at least on the VV side, we're a collectibles company. But really, crypto is such an interesting place, right? And anyone can invest in anything, whether they know what they're investing in or not, right? And to be honest with you, most people think they're going to be a millionaire within 3 days. Right? And when they're not, it's your fault, right? And so you say, why so much fun? I think most people would say, why so much FUD, right? Because you kind of see both sides of that. But when you're literally carrying the emotional weight of millions of people and their financial hopes and dreams, I mean, that's a heavy thing to bear sometimes, and so, yeah, our outlet is to have some fun, right? And for me personally, I like to show who I am a little bit, right? And I like people to know me and to understand where we're coming from. And that's how I like to express myself, I'm not as big a troll as Alex, right? He can hold that title, but, even he's learned some lessons on that.
I got a question that asked, well, it's not a question that you have to answer, but it's an interesting one. What were your guys' feelings from the Ome side about the Ripple SEC case, and then the president's executive order here in the United States, considering that you guys have had to be monitoring these things for quite some time? So maybe just talk about, just how you guys have been, number one, monitoring it, and number two, what the feelings are now that there is becoming a little bit of understanding of what's going to be happening, at least for the United States side. I know there's international people watching.
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to the point we were making earlier, right? And the Ripple case is just one example, right? And I mean, BlockFi just got charged. That was a landmark case as well, where they settled. Those kind of, sorry, I'm just going to close Discord. We are on top of them, right? But we always knew these things were coming. There was always going to be punishments for things done previously, tokens, sales that didn't quite live up to those expectations, or whatever the thing happened to be, which again is why we have walked so cautiously through this. We also have licensor pressure. A lot of people who have been part of this journey for a while will know that some of those early days in licensor meetings, if you mentioned the word blockchain, they ushered us out of the doors, right? They literally walked us out of the meeting. So we have to defend our brand and reputation while also appeasing, quite a number of stakeholders and making sure that we do err on the side of caution there. So, that is really just one example. The Ripple case is one example of that crackdown, I think. And then, like we mentioned, conversely, with this new executive order of nothingness, but essentially an executive order that calls to action, right? That's really what this is. A call to action that now gives people and regulators permission to actually look into this industry, right? And to actualize some of that information, hopefully for the benefit of everybody in the US, which, as we all know, impacts economies around the world. I'm really happy with the decisions we made up until now, and going forward with that legal advice, because it has kept us out of any sort of hot water. We really haven't had to face anything like that yet. And moving forward will really help us. Once these regulations are in place, or that clarity comes out of the US, well, then it really helps us to define our strategy a bit more.
Okay. Here's one of those probing questions that obviously somebody's asking because they want to see you get a rise out of it. Why the delay now that Immutable X is running? I mean, just, they're saying on one end, and why the delay for everything else now?
Delay on what?
They just said, why the delay for like Master Collector Program, OUP? It's those are the two things that we're effectively waiting for IMX to be completed. It is completed.
Yep. Yeah, and and now the development is underway. So specifically for Ome features, there was no point building in that infrastructure because we were going to move chain. So all of that back end, literally the blockchain infrastructure would have to change again. Right? So that was the reason.
So basically, you guys were like, "Hey, there's no point in putting resources towards something, considering we're not going to be using this Go chain. We're going to be on IMX and we're going to be on Ethereum, and so putting those resources towards this other stuff right now just doesn't make sense because we don't know how they're going to work together. Kind of like technology is like."
And aside from that, we would literally have to just rebuild it. So when we were mapping this timeline out, I think we originally announced IMX in May last year. We had the phases rolled out, all of these things. We were working with them, and we very ambitiously thought that process would be done within a few months at that point. So it really was a matter of, okay, well, we could spend the next 2 months building in these features, and then we migrate, and then we have to rebuild them. Now, the whole IMX migration got delayed, which is what has actually pushed this timeline a bit further along.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. The whole IMX got delayed. Like all of their stuff was just backlogged. I mean, because they're working with, like, from what I know, at least 6 different major companies.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't know if you've seen recently, but they had a bit of a hiring spree.
Yeah, I think IMX's hiring was their Twitter handle.
And there was 80 positions or something, right? Like they're trying to mass scale. Now they can scale the staff and try to build those things, but they're a startup too, right? So they're trying to build in those systems. They're trying to put the right people in places, but there's a huge lead time there, aside from development work, right? Or the business development front that really extended that out. When we started to do the migration, we did phase 1, which was register all the addresses to layer 2. The next stage was meant to be the NFTs. Now at that time, I think there was maybe 1.5 million, 2 million NFTs ready to be migrated across. But for all the work that people had put in, I think the system that was meant to be this super quick minting was going to take weeks, which meant we had to take the market offline for weeks. We had to close, it literally affected everything downstream. So our development team spent the next couple of months with their development team optimizing that system, right? And then when we finally migrated, I think we did 3 million NFTs in 24 hours or 48 hours or however long it took to kind of migrate, but obviously caused way less interruptions. And as frustrating as it was, it had to happen that way, right? Because we're a business, we sell collectibles. If you close down company revenue, you essentially close down the company. So, that it just had to take place in that order. And then the token migration itself, that took a lot of education, right? And I think I did 5 AMAs leading up to it. We had 3 articles out, all of these things. And I still have people that sent the wrong token to the wrong place or to the contract address and all of these things. So for me personally, that wasn't something I was ever going to rush, that needed to be done.
Yeah, that migration situation, I'd have to say, I preached it myself from the high heavens. I was like, guys, make your decisions now, like start planning. I took it like almost like an estate planning, like, hey guys, I'm not going to die tomorrow, but let me just look at a couple of things. How much was I going to use in the app? I was projecting, how much I would be willing to use in the app, how much I would keep in one of my bags, and how much I'd pull off and put in the cold storage. It was literally I had to plan all that out. So I was very in tuned and inclined to, listen to the AMAs, follow the advice, read the papers, reread things like 4 or 5 times to make sure that, look, I'm going to do it this way because it's easier for me and it costs less. Yeah. That was my big thing, is like, I didn't want to have to go back on. And I played with it once. I went on Uniswap and I bought some tokens there just to see if I could do it, not using the wrapped Ome, but actually the Ome. And the gas fees, I was like, I could have bought like another like 10,000 Ome with these gas fees. But anyway, but I did it just to see to play with it. And then I realized, like, that's not for me. I like the Bit4X model better. That's just me personally.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's why we tried to create those options.
Yeah.
Now Bit4X is still letting you do it. You can send in the old GoChain Ome and withdraw the ERC20. They're actually letting you deposit on both chains, right? And then OKX and Gate.io are still yet to complete, right? I was talking to the OKX devs last week. I mean, I've literally nudged them every third day for the last month. But even they've run into some development or resource issues on their end. So that should be done hopefully this week. But it's funny in crypto, things move so quick that migration seems like it's so far behind us.
It does.
6 weeks ago, and 2 exchanges haven't finished it yet. So
man,
I'm still in it, still very much in this migratory process to help people get across, and then to help people fix the errors if they have sent them to the wrong place or that kind of thing too. So
now, how has this been for you trying to work with like not a boomer generation, close to a boomer generation, the ones on the fringe, they're almost turning 60 soon. And they're I mean, Al, what was Al doing when like, Ome, like, here's my phone? Did he just hand you over his phone and be like, do this for me real quick?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he'd still be doing that. Yeah. Look, that's why I tried to roll out so many educative pieces too, right? And not just for the boomers. Crypto is still quite janky and hard to understand for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So it's more for that user base, especially the people who have come through VV, right? Because that has attracted a whole spectrum of audience, right? And age ranges and all that kind of thing. You're also then dealing with multicultural issues, right? The issues of language and
yeah.
like I'm only, I can only speak English and poorly at that, right? So thankfully we have Spanish mods that helped us do an AMA in Spanish, but like I couldn't go as far with French speaking audience or the Turkish speaking audience and things like that. So look, we face that challenge with any piece of information we put out, and that's because our audience is truly global. So yeah, it's a learning experience, to say the least.
Over 2 million users in a year. Congratulations on that. I mean, any global app, any project, a lot of things happening. You guys did something very successfully. Very proud of the work you're all accomplishing. Okay, I'm going to ask a Gavelle Anderson question now. So it's not mine.
Okay.
What are they doing with all this revenue? How much are they utilizing the money for? What are they utilizing the money for? Me personally, I don't care, but
yeah, scaling and expansion is probably the best summary there. I think people think because they calculate, okay, well this drop sold for this much, wow, they're making so much money, right? And don't get me wrong, it's been a very successful 12 months. But I think people disregard the 30% app store fee, right? So that's gone. Right? Then you've got a licensing fee, which I don't know the ins and outs of those things, but could be around the same amount, right? Then you've got all your operating costs, all your staffing, trying to invest in scaling the team, right? And scaling the app. Then you've got the web platform and the VVverse and paying for the MTL and tax and all of these things. So the numbers are great, the retention's great, all those kind of things, but it's not so black and white that it's okay, money in equals profit. But for the most part, we're building out the team. We're trying to really expand that. We obviously have ecosystem developments with the VVverse and things like that too, which are quite financially and resource intensive.
I'm not going to ask about the VV verse. I'm just not.
There's honestly nothing I can say about it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not. That's why I stopped myself. I was like, yeah, not going to ask. What can you tell me about anything juicy? Come on, come on, give Big Daddy a little something. Like give me a little something juicy
out here. You know that.
Oh, come on. I promise we won't tell Alex.
Yeah, good. It's not Alex I'm worried about.
It's David, you texted you going, it's 4 a.m.
This is my job.
It's like, it's 4 a.m. And David, you text you like, hey, so it's 4 a.m. here and I just saw a tweet from you.
That's it. Now, look, I would love to give you some juice, but I'm actually filming a video interview with David and Dan at the end of this week. So I think they'll roll out a number of updates and things like that. Yeah.
Well, listen, I think it's awesome. We're coming to almost the top of the hour here. I think that the Ome brand is something special. My wallet is downstairs, but I was gonna be like, hey, I'm not leaving to go grab it. But you guys started off with that digital wallet, with the cold storage wallet. You've built a cryptocurrency. Then you moved over and you've now built a VV, and now it's on an app, and then now there's a VV verse being talked about, MTL. You guys have been so busy this past year that getting 2 of these done, let alone 4 to 5 things done, is unbelievable. How has the team been able to keep up with this pace? Because your guys are global, and literally, like I was teasing you about getting a text from somebody at 4 a.m., but legitimately that you might, that your boss wakes up and it's a different time zone,
Time zone, right? And yeah, and thank you, thanks for all of that praise, and what's truly amazed me across this whole journey, I mean, we've built this remotely too, right? Our team is split across the world. So to be able to kind of coordinate all of that is true credit to Dan. He's an ultimate organizer, that guy, to really bring people together and be able to manage that. But look, collectively as a team, I mean, everybody sees the vision here. We always have. When people kind of are introduced to this company, I mean, all of us have been, crypto pilled and Ome pilled and VV pilled at this point, so I think when you come in and you realize, okay, it's not just a product that we're all of us, everyone in the NFT industry is building a new industry on our backs, right? So that opportunity drives us, I think, to put it succinctly, and it drives me, right? And like I'm on this journey, but I want to see where we can go. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, and I think that fundamentally is what really makes this more cohesive. But we also have the right people in the right places. We've really introed people. I used to manage Ome socials, VV socials, or all of those kinds of things, and I really thought it would be hard to slot someone else in there who didn't know the community and wasn't that ingratiated. And then we found Alex, right? And Alex, shout out to the man, because he took to the ground running and really found a place here and has followed everybody's example. He's let people get to know him too. We're not just these corporate uniforms, right? I'm uncomfortable wearing a collared shirt right now. So let me tell you, just have a reason to crack this out. So, it's that we support each other, and we're all going through the same ups and downs and the same startup business struggles and journey together. So it's, there's unity in misery.
I as a man who started his own company and ran it and did things that I like I always tell people, I've lived a pretty cool life, but it's always that next thing that drove me. It was the next thing, right? It's not the thing that you're always on. You're like, all right, what's next? Like I don't remember. Have you ever seen that P. Diddy thing where he's like, give me another deal, give me something else to do, give me something. Like, I feel like that has been kind of what you guys are doing. Every time I turn around, I'm like, I was like, I watch people get upset online. And then I'm like, whatever, 15 minutes, they'll give us some amazing drop and everybody forget about this. And then there was Jim Gate and everybody forgot about that. And then there was what was the thing?
Jim Gate.
Yeah, Jim Gate. Jim Gate was a nightmare for some people. I was like, guys, it's
Flockgate, Jim Gate. I think it was Jim Gate 2, Brave Gate.
The DeLorean Gate, whatever. Like, oh man, DeLorean stopped working. I was like, what was an accident, guys? They said it. Like, but there's, you just wait 15 minutes and it's almost like everyone has ADD because we're all collectors and that's what happens. It's well, we're Superwoman, you know.
It's probably our fault because people got used to the announcement, right? Here's a new license, here's a new thing, right? And from a product point of view, that's what you need to do. You need to keep it exciting. You know, we just released drivable augmented reality Aston Martins. Like, come on, you know, credit where credit's due. That's awesome, right? So you want
first of its kind.
Yeah, it's sick. You want to keep layering that in so that the user experience, the collector experience becomes more fun as we move along, right? And gives you more utility. But from a personal or a team point of view, once you kind of tick that box, you scratch that itch and you achieve that thing, you're like, okay, well, we did that. What else can we do? Like, where does this go next? You know, so yeah, that's what drives a lot of us, I think.
Well, I am happy to be along for the journey with you all as a collector, as an investor, as a fan of the Ome brand. But I will give you the last words before we sign off for the night. So go ahead, say whatever you need to the fans that have been watching. It's been a lot of people coming in and out of this thing. So just go ahead and give your little advice to the fans around the Ome brand.
I just like to use these moments to really thank everybody, you know, and I know that crypto is hard to be a part of anyway, and we would all love our time schedule to be a much more compressed thing. So look, to everyone who has always supported us and continues to, I just really extend my thanks to all of you. Thank you to yourself, Akil, and to Goxstein Media and everybody who continues to elevate this industry and what we're doing. It means the world to us, it means the world to me. You know, it really helps me get out of bed in the morning. It puts a smile on my face, you know. So big thanks to everybody. Stay tuned because now we're really hitting the ground running and we're gonna have some fun this year.
Well, I'm excited for the future of Ome and the VV app. Stay tuned. Listen to big things coming your way. We are the People's Blockchain Media here at Goxstein Media. My name's Akil Patterson. Thanks for joining us once again, host of The Big Three and Me. Have a great day and an even better tomorrow. I was like, how long is he gonna make me hold this?
Yes, what are you doing? I'm like, I better do it. Nice.
Okay, so it's muted. So Reese, let me know when